This edict identifies Jesus of Nazareth as a heretic and a blasphemer.
This season on The Chosen.
There are those for whom this will set off a series of events. My followers won't understand.
Lazarus, come out!
I guess you're not holding back anymore.
I can't. I'm out of time.
See Season 4 of The Chosen in theaters on February 1st, starting with episodes 1, 2, and 3. Get your tickets now at thechosenriseup.com.
This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist podcast. If you like what you're listening to, please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist podcast and give the many stars on all the things.
How's it going, Hemant?
Busy, crazy day, but we're gonna whip through these.
Yeah, it's 11:30 a.m. and
It's
neither of
way
us
too early.
is ready for this
I know.
shit.
That's
I'm drinking
okay.
coffee. I hate it.
If you want to tell a quick story, because I want to talk about Willow Creek and all the stuff that's happening there.
Oh yeah. Oh, about. So I was waiting to pick up my husband at the train station, and I got this text alert or a news push from NBC saying like, "Oh, somebody from Willow Church resigned," and I screen grabbed it as I'm wont to do and sent it to him. Like, I'm assuming you already got this, but whatever. And he talks this big fucking game. Like, oh,
This is on, I think, Wednesday.
yeah,
of
I
this
think it
week.
was. Let me see. He said,
Tuesday or Wednesday.
he said, doop.
I can
Yes,
summarize for you.
Yes, I think we covered everything last time. This is the guy resigned when we recorded
Right.
it.
Last week we
Channel 5
recorded.
is just late to the news as usual. And then I get a really cocky smiley face with blushy cheeks.
It's
and
the only
then,
one I know how to make.
And then, oh wait, all caps, more drama. You win this round, Channel 5.
Yeah, so you told me the alert said someone had resigned, and I'm like, well, when we
Lead
recorded
pastors-
last time,
Well, he didn't. Oh, you.
when we
that was
recorded
your-
last time, a lead pastor had resigned. I'm like, oh, that's news from Sunday. Why are they alerting us to that now?
Yeah, and it was a push notification.
Yeah.
But in your defense, it just says Willow Creek Mega Church's lead pastor resigns after more misconduct allegations served against its founder. But the
Which
news,
is the story we talked about last
right?
week.
But the news
Yeah.
that was actually coming out was that everyone resigned.
Yeah, so basically the quick version of the old story is that Bill Hybels, the founder of this massive, massive mega church, influential, and he was influential, he was accused of all sorts of inappropriate conduct back in like February. And then the last Sunday, the last time we, on our last podcast, another woman had now come forward in the New York Times to say that she was his assistant
Right.
and he groped her for several years. It involved oral sex. Like, it was a serious...
Like they had an ongoing non-consensual relationship, it sounded like.
And so this, for a lot of people, this is the reason I thought, well, the pastor resigned. Bill Hybels is going to retire. He decided to retire immediately after the first allegations came forward. But one of the two replacement pastors resigned that afternoon.
And that we got in Sundays.
And we did.
show.
We talked about that last week. And we said he resigned. He's like, I wanted to resign. They asked me to stick around for a little while longer. I did. But after this story, I'm not sticking around. We have different ideas of how to lead this church moving forward.
different ideas on how not to molest people.
Yeah. I'm assuming he's like, here's an example. I have no idea what his reasoning. They didn't explain what the discrepancy was.
Okay.
It's entirely possible that the elders of this church, there are 9 of them. They're I don't know if they're voted on or appointed or whatever, but the 9 of them might have said, we want to investigate this using, an internal investigation or maybe a Christian group. And maybe he's like, no, we got to go outside, get an outside investigator. That could be a source of conflict that points in the right direction.
Yeah.
But whatever, it wasn't working. Whatever happened, he resigned. On Wednesday, which is the day this particular church has their in-congregation sermons and
Yeah, that would have
services.
been Wednesday the 8th.
Yeah, as opposed to Sundays, which is really when they try to reach out to people who aren't already in their fold. Wednesdays for their people. And on Wednesday night of this week, the other replacement pastor, her name her name is Heather Larson. She announced that she was going to step down as well. And then the elders said, all 9 of us, we're all going to step down. Some of us are going to do it in a couple weeks or in a week. The rest of us by the end of the year. But we're all resigning because we fucked everything up.
Okay.
They didn't say that, but
They
should
didn't.
have.
I can't believe it. I didn't write their press release. I'm impressed. Like, yes, it's too little too late.
Yes.
Yes, they fucked things up really, 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 really badly. But and this is a low bar to clear, and we're lowering that bar every day, at least at the end of the day, they're like, oh no, oh no, we did it bad. We gotta go. We shouldn't be here. Unlike the like whole Michigan State athletic thing with the
Larry Nassar and all those people.
All of them were like, no, I think we really slam dunked this huge case. We'll stay here, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that with seemingly little outside pressure, right? Like,
I disagree. I think the only reason they all decided to resign is because internally, their congregation was giving Bill Hybels a standing ovation when he denied the allegations.
Okay.
They gave, when Heather Larson said she was leaving, I think they gave her a standing ovation, which, again, she's not part of the issue, but she didn't help. She was helping prop up Bill Hybels.
Maybe this congregation just really likes to stand up and clap. Did you ever think of that?
Yeah, so I actually think the fact that the New York Times is the one and the Chicago Tribune broke these stories,
you're right.
and not, for example, they did an internal investigation and they found that there was some inappropriate stuff therefore.
Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong.
I think it's all the outside pressure, but I would say this. Yes, it's too little too late, but I don't think this solves all their problems for a few reasons. One is, yes, the people who are the leaders there, the elders and even the two pastors, they help perpetuate, like Bill Hybels, the myth surrounding him that the women were conspiring against him. They, for a long time, just acted like none of this, publicly anyway, like none of this was really happening or whatever. And okay, fine, now they're facing the facts, finally.
Yeah.
But the congregation isn't any better here because if you read the reports about all the resignations that were stated on Wednesday night, all the reports I read said stuff like, when she said she was resigning, the voice from the crowd is like, no, don't. Like, and when the elders were resigning, there were gasps. And like, no, you should be applauding them leaving.
Right.
They're part of the problem. You should break free, get rid of everyone there, and start fresh,
again.
which is kind of what the elders and the pastors wanted to do. Like, we'll give you a chance to start over.
Do you have any idea what next steps are for the church?
The next step is they have so many satellite campuses that aren't in South Barrington. One of their one of the other churches that they run, a pastor from there is going to take over the church. I don't know how they're going to appoint new leadership or what policies they're going to do.
A lot of shoes to fill.
It is. And by the way, this weekend is their big leadership summit, which they still held.
This coming weekend, like tomorrow?
As in it happened yesterday and today, I believe.
Really?
So the first part of that leadership summit was a giant kind of apology.
Sure.
Like, hey, you know how we're running this leadership thing and we shouldn't be leading anything? We're still doing it, but we feel bad.
Just anybody can be like, hey, I'm going to teach you all how to be leaders. And everyone else is like, well, you sort of bred a culture of sexual harassment. Yes, but you'll still come, assholes.
That's pretty much the conversation. I mean, about 100 churches already said they weren't going to participate.
Yeah.
But like 600 plus did. And hundreds of thousands of people were live streaming it, and many of them
But you said they had a decline in registration, but obviously not significant enough
to cancel it and not
or
to
make us feel better about the state of the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad the people left who left.
Yeah.
But again, if the congregation is still acting like something awful has happened.
Like the awful thing is everybody resigning as opposed to women being physically and emotionally harassed.
That's right. And if that's how they're feeling,
tricky.
Then who's going to select the elders? What's going to happen then if the congregation, it's not one bad apple. That's the thing about this. Bill Hybels isn't the only problem. You're right. They created a culture of this. So you're not going to solve it until like the entire orchard is fumigated or whatever the hell the metaphor is now.
Is that a metaphor? At what point? I mean, okay, so something this big, because do you know off the top of your head how many congregants they have? I'm just wondering.
I think it's more than 10,000 a week. Jesus. Congregants, maybe 18 or something, but they get maybe 30,000 in a weekend via live streams and other stuff.
I mean, at what point?
I'm making those numbers up, but I think I've seen this.
Okay, but like for conversation's sake, this is a lot of people who are going to this thing every day. And at what point, if the top level is cleaned out, do they shutter? Do they sell the building off?
Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's too big to fail.
That's literally the phrase that was in my head, and I wouldn't let myself say it out loud.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. But they also have enough leadership, quote unquote, that is not at the very top that they could refill the ranks.
Rise up.
the question is, how are they going to change it moving forward? And will their congregation pressure them to make any real changes?
Sounds like super they won't.
Yeah, and that's my concern because, whatever, in a few months, once now that everyone's cleared out,
Right.
people may forget about this and move on,
People defo will forget about it.
So what's the church going to do when the outside pressure is not there?
You know, it's the only thing they can do that would like even slightly impress me at this point is if they did their house clean and had kind of a grand reopening, quote unquote, and their first sermon was all about empathy and treating women with respect and what it's like to be in power and not be abusive and like drive that home. We've changed. We're not. I mean, obviously. The follow-up would be also don't harass people.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear them say, like, here's where, they practice this Christian culture that clearly didn't stop this from happening, and no one knew about it.
So,
yeah. Well, like, it wasn't enough to do a side hug, right? It wasn't enough to promote abstinence only. It wasn't enough to do whatever it is they were doing, because not only did the head guy harass all these women, everyone around him acted like nothing was happening.
It's very much a thing of the things. It's do as I say, not as I do. They are. It's not. That's not even a perfect expression for it because they're saying, well, here are the dangers of the world: abortion and worldliness and all this. But really and truly, what the thing that we all need to look out for, themselves included, is abuses of power and corruption and women being treated like garbage for no specific reason other than existing. So while they're saying like, oh, you need to protect your kids against premarital sex, the reality is the real danger is the shit you're actually doing, not the shit you're like trying to fearmonger against.
Watch what they do, not what they say.
Right.
And we see what they do now, and
Right.
it's not good. And this is, again, the reason this is such a big deal is this is like the pastor's pastor Hybels was. He's the guy all the other ones look up to see how to do it right.
Right.
And the one that's so influential in that regards screwed everything up in this situation.
Yeah.
And again, if you go back to like the Chicago Tribune's report from I think end of February and you look at the immediate reaction, we're talking Hybels standing on that stage saying he didn't do anything. The
Everybody applauding.
two replacement pastors saying, we're here with you, we'll help facilitate this conversation because we're still with you and we want to move forward.
Everybody
And the
applauding.
congregation giving him a standing ovation. Like, everyone there is guilty of something or another. And it hasn't really gotten better unless we know how they're moving forward. So, again, I'm not part of the church. I don't know what their internal deliberations are, but unless they're very clear about how they're going to fix this moving forward,
Right.
I don't know why. It makes me think badly of people who still go to that church as opposed to, because it's
Finding
not like
somewhere else.
it's not like there are a lack of churches.
No, no.
And who believe the same things they do, but they go to that one for
What's
a
their
reason.
denomination?
Non-denominational. It's just
Oh.
flat out evangelical.
Oh.
But there are other non-denominational churches that they could go to, but you go to that one because it's special, or at least that's the aura they presented. And so now if you're still going to that church, and by the way, I watched the live stream last weekend, and the morning that all this happened, this is right after the New York Times article came out, the people were singing. They were like, yes, God is with us today. The head worship leader, singer guy was just, whatever you were watching had no bearing on the news that had just broke.
Yeah.
Maybe he hadn't read it or something, but they were acting like nothing had changed at all. And it's like, do you realize the church you're in right now? Do you know the turmoil that's happening around you here? Or are you really, all of you, this much in a bubble?
And isn't there a performative element of it? Of like, even if there is turmoil within the church, they feel like it's their responsibility to like put on a show. The show must go on type thing.
But when you're the problem, like,
yeah.
right? And
No, that's what I'm saying is like, there's an obvious disconnect between... Like, I think it's almost like he views what he does as a performance, whereas the people who watch him view him as, like, a whole person who is teaching them these moral lessons because he's this great moral leader, right?
Yeah, different people we're talking about, just so we're clear. The guy who was leading the singing and stuff was just like, let's praise God, let's do all this stuff. But watching him, you would get the impression that everything was great.
Everything's great.
But then all the shit happened. So, again,
yeah.
The saddest part about this, even I know where I stand on, if you're accusing me of bias here, I know where I stand on the church stuff, but you have to wonder, what is the congregation doing to still go here realizing that all these people were culpable in this? What does it say about you who, if you're still going to this church and giving them money? Like, until they get their shit together in a way, like, nothing's going to change unless they say, I'm walking out, I'm taking my money with me until you change. Like you said, the grand reopening thing, not a bad idea, but, like, they should just stop holding services or something.
I mean, I think part of I bet it's an ability to compartmentalize what you're doing and what you're supporting. And also I wonder if there is an element of misogyny and she was asking for it, or what was she doing there, or it's not his fault, he's a man. Men have needs, and everybody knows they can't control them.
In reading articles about this, I haven't heard that quoted in any of the articles. I mean, all the articles lately have been pretty much like, even if they're quoting random people in the audience, it's pretty much what you want to hear and what you expect to hear. Like, I'm
leaving and never coming back.
Not that. But they're not blaming the women. They're like, we should have listened to them, or we should have believed them the first. I mean, it's what that's good. But at the same time, I don't know.
They're still there.
I'm sure the people that you just kind of referred to, the ones who are like, it's their fault, I'm sure those people are there. They're in every crowd.
Right.
That's not unique to a church thing. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to change, and I haven't heard or seen anything, and it's early.
Yeah.
I haven't heard or seen anything that makes me think they're going to change what they do, and I'm really curious to see how they change it. So,
actually, on that sort of sexual harassment tip, actually, both of mine stories today are shockingly about women being treated like garbage. I'm really trying something new in my life.
Which is just depressing stories all the time?
It's just depressing stories about how much I hate men.
Yes, go on.
I really am trying to get off brand. So Brock Turner, you may remember, and if you don't, I will tell you about him now. He, in 2016, he was this white, I think Stanford?
He was white
He was a white Stanford dude, was what I was trying to say. But
He's no longer white.
Yeah. Yeah, he's changed. No, so it was a big story in 2016. Basically, this man, Brock Turner, who was like a swimmer or some garbage, who cares, raped a unconscious drunk woman. And he was caught, like, literally red-handed. Like, people were driving by, they were, like, by a dumpster, and people were like, hey, that woman looks super unconscious. And he was like, what? I didn't know. Which, whatever. Anyway, so he was found guilty of rape. The victim, who I think her name is still withheld, but I'm not sure. She made this incredibly moving speech about the echoes of it and the consequences of it to this day, and how this has kind of broken her life in a very real way. Now, after this very headline-grabbing trial, the judge was like, ugh, dude, I don't want you to ruin your future on this thing, so I'm just going to give you 3 months in jail. And then all of the women's heads exploded. So anyway, I thought we were done with that. He got in and out of jail, whatever. He is still contesting these, because now, as a part of his punishment, he also has to register as a sex offender. And instead of just taking his punishment because he deserves it, and that's how punishments do, he wanted to appeal for a new trial. And so the appellate court, it was a 3-judge panel, and they were not persuaded by Turner's lawyer, whose name is Eric S. Multhaup, who claimed that his client only sought to have outer course with the woman he's convicted of assaulting.
He wanted outer course, but whoops, I raped her?
It's hard to say what the fuck he's talking about, although it's Justice Franklin D. Elia. He had a really solid quote, I absolutely don't understand what you're talking about, which is excellent. So that means that, so I'm sorry, did I make it clear the court super rejected his appeal for a new trial? And if he wants to avoid having to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life, it would have to be appealed up to the Supreme Court if he wants anything done. Another lawyer who was the prosecution was like, this is not a good look. Just take your licks and move on. Anyway, so that I just thought that was an incredible bit of verbal tap dance around the word rape, outer course. Yeah, that's all I had for him.
glad they rejected it.
Yeah, I mean,
you know
at
what?
least
One
that's
headline that I saw was like Stanford swimmer gets denied this trial. It's like, don't
He
call him the
wasn't-
Stanford swimmer. That's not the thing he should be known for.
Also,
He's a
he-
convicted rapist.
Also, he
that
wasn't
should be the headline.
denied a trial. He's already had a trial. He was denied a second trial
sorry, yes.
for no specific that he sought for no specific reason. He was like, "Ugh, they were mean to me."
His life must be so
Oh, I
hard.
hate that guy. Also, I think the judge who oversaw that is maybe getting repealed. I don't know how judges work.
Oh, the one who said he's not guilty, the first one.
Well, who said he was guilty, but he didn't want. Did you see?
I saw that you threw some garbage away and it landed.
It landed in my Domino's pizza box. God, I'm such a trash monster. No, the
Whitest
judge.
thing you've ever said.
Okay, you accuse me that of every week. I still think the fact that I DVR Maddow is the whitest thing about me. Yes, there are details. There are other things we can discuss. Is it the fact that I cross-stitch and watch true crime British documentaries? Maybe. Anyway.
Oh my God, what am I doing in this house? I got.
Fuck, I don't know.
All
Oh,
right.
no,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I don't remember what I was saying. You
That's
accused
all
me
good.
of being white. It was really hurtful.
You're damn right I did. Okay, so Southern Baptist Convention, largest Protestant denomination in the country, they have a wing called the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission.
Okay.
That is a pretty powerful, like, not sub-denomination, it's a part of the SBC. They posted a video online this week, and they do this all the time. They post little 1-minute clips of maybe a theologian or a pastor just talking about some issue of the day. And I've seen these videos. They're like, yeah, you're explaining why they believe what they believe. It's not a big deal. And for the most part, they kind of go unnoticed because I don't need a Christian
They're
telling me
dull,
what
yeah.
Christians think. Whatever.
Not a lot has changed in the Christian faith in
Yeah.
the last 2,000 years.
Yeah, the one they posted this week included a theologian and ethicist named Charles Camosi. And basically, it was only a 1-minute video. He basically argued that we should treat animals ethically.
Okay.
Not controversial at all. And he also said, like, pro-life people, which is all of us, they're saying in this video, pro-life people we care about fetuses. Why? Because they're vulnerable and they're voiceless and they deserve dignity. That is our argument for why we are pro-life, right? Therefore, you should also care about animals who are also vulnerable and voiceless and deserve dignity. That was his argument. Here's specifically what he said. I think non-human animals, though obviously not as important as human animals, merit our serious attention. They are also vulnerable. They are also voiceless. They are also pushed to the margins because they're inconvenient. Interestingly, just like prenatal children are.
Well,
All right.
well.
Goes on. There are a growing number of people who are pro-life in that they're anti-abortion, but also pro-life in that they want to stand up for the dignity of non-human animals. And that is a leading edge, a growing edge, if you will, of the pro-life movement in 2018.
Okay.
Okay, so his
Is it?
argument, okay, fine, I'll accept it.
Accept his premise.
Right? Yeah, so the argument is if you're pro-life for these reasons, you should treat animals well too, because they are in a lot of ways the same
Also
thing.
vulnerable. They're also under our control in a large way.
Yeah, so they took that video down.
Really?
They took it down, the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. They took that video down saying, basically, it's way too controversial and we didn't mean to stir this shit up.
Wow.
Yeah, and the vice president for communications for the group, Daniel Darling, he posted an explanation of why this had to come down. And the argument, can you guess what their argument is for why this was... We didn't mean to put this up, but
Yeah.
we did. Whoops, sorry, our bad. It wasn't meant to
Okay,
go
it's
up.
either this isn't representative of us as a whole, or he's putting animals on the same level as humans, and that's inappropriate.
Yeah,
Is that it?
that's pretty much it.
Fuck yeah.
Basically, what he said is, we believe what the Bible says about the unique dignity of human life. Only humans are created in the image of God. Parentheses, fuck everyone else. That's my addition.
Yeah.
And he just added, this is a particularly embarrassing mistake for me because I just finished writing a book on the image of God that makes the exact opposite argument from
Fuck
the one
animals?
seen in the video.
My book.
Yeah, plug my
Image
book.
of God. Fuck animals.
But also that second explanation, like I just wrote something that says the opposite. It's like, well, how dare this other man
Yeah.
give an alternative opinion on something that could be debated either way? Like,
That's really because I feel like for our many flaws, secular type people are pretty good about being like, yeah, we all agree on X, Y, and Z, but we have these peripheral
Yes.
views that are really different.
and you will hear Christians making an ethical, biblical case for vegetarianism. You know, God gave us these animals, whatever. We should treat them well. They're all children of God, or whatever.
Daddy, are you
or
a
just
child of
saying
God?
God gave us dominion over the animals so we can eat them.
a child
they'll
of
say
God?
anything. Hello, Dottie.
She's a child of God, isn't she? Good girl.
And the point, you could do whatever. You could argue this both ways. This is not like a make or break theological issue. Why does Dottie come closer to me when I say animals?
Who's a child of God, Daddy? Okay, Daddy, get off the mic. Daddy, come here. She
I
loves
hate
him
animals.
so much, and he hates her.
Totally.
She's the best dog. I almost
She's
took
going to make me not be vegetarian.
Are you
That's
going to
right.
eat my dog?
That's right. You heard what I said.
Oh, Daddy.
So this is something that could be debated
She'd be
both ways
gamey.
in the
Wouldn't you be
Christian
gamey?
circles. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of conversation. He wasn't saying this is how all of you have to think.
Daddy,
He's saying that this is how I think, and here's my argument for it. And they're somehow really afraid of that.
Yeah, that's really wild that they don't accept any dissent among the ranks, I guess is how I would put it. Because I think that's a perfectly valid argument. Like, for me, the fact that I'm not a vegetarian is 100% like a moral failing on my part. It is a thing I have thought about a lot, but I'm like, I'm sorry. This makes me a bad person for sure.
But I'm hungry.
But I also really like meat a whole lot. I am the first to admit that that's a fucking terrible position to have. And I could never sit down and, Hammond's a vegetarian, I could never, well, that's not true. I'm sure I could come up with a garbage argument, but
For why to eat meat.
For why to eat meat.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're there. I've heard talks about like, people say factory farming and stuff is cruel, but there's also the element of like, the human element of farming crops and how really difficult that is and what kind of people end up with those jobs, which is to say those with the least protection among us, undocumented immigrants. Yeah, there's arguments to be made. That said, yeah, I shouldn't eat meat. I just like it and I'm lazy. But like, I wouldn't, if Hemmant wrote on The Friendly, or even came on this podcast and was like,
Here's why you should
vegetarianism
be-
is an ethical issue, I'd be like, yeah. It super is. I would never like try to shut it down because I disagree with it.
The surprising thing is just like, this is not like one of the biggest issues among Southern Baptists. It's not like saying gay.
Yeah.
I realize if the guy said transgender people exist, then that might
Because
be a
that's the thing
problem
they've
for them.
taken a stand on.
Yes, this is not, and yet they were like, "What? Whoops! This guy expressed his opinion. That can't happen."
That's so. Is that the idea that we have to be agreed on all things, we being the Christian community?
The Southern Baptists were like, "This guy spoke through our channels as if he were speaking for us, and he said something that doesn't represent our one single monolithic view."
Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm
Therefore-
surprised there's censoring his speech. Like, that's not.
Don't
not
worry,
anything,
we saved a copy. You can watch the video on the website. We'll
Yeah,
post a link.
I don't know why I'm surprised that's anything new, but it's, I guess, disappointing, which is ironic because I have no regard for them. But it's disappointing that, like, even among themselves, they can't have disagreement of any stripe.
Yeah, especially on something like this where there are passionate people on the different sides.
And like they say, oh, this, I hate that, like, oh, this was a mistake. You know that shit went through dozens of people to get up on the website, and only after they got the blowback where they're like,
I mean,
what? How did this end up on my website?
It had bumpers, like with the question at the beginning. That didn't just magically appear. Someone put that there.
Yep.
They went, whatever. Silly. This happened this week where a woman shopping at a Wegmans grocery store in Pennsylvania, she bought some diapers.
Do you know about Wegmans?
What about them?
Apparently, Wegmans is like the shit. It's like a huge grocery store chain in the Northeast. I think my uncle works for one, but like it's a thing. Like people go to visit like upstate New York, and they're like, "We're going to go to the Wegmans." Like it's a thing. Anyway, go ahead. People in
I
Northeast.
don't know
will-
whether to be impressed / like, why is that a thing?
I don't know why it's a thing, but people are really into it.
All right.
Like
At
it's
Jessica, let her know why.
I mean, that's fine.
I'll
My
see.
uncle can let me know. I think he works for one in Rochester.
So this lady went there. She bought some diapers, and she opened up the box of diapers, and inside of it was a pamphlet that read, and I'll read you the cover, God hates the hands that shed innocent blood. And on the other side
In
was a
a
very
diaper?
in a diaper box. And we'll talk about that. And on the other side of this, the back of the pamphlet was a very graphic image of a dead aborted fetus.
Whoa! In a diaper box?
Yeah, in the diaper box. She said she opened it, she found that card, and she quoted, "I don't think Loves puts this in their boxes.
Oh
I
my
think it
God.
was some, quote, psycho, crazy anti-abortion person who slipped it into these open handles here," which is very likely true. For what it's worth, Wegman says, we didn't put it there. And by the
Yeah.
way, that same pamphlet was found in some of our other products.
Really?
So they know...
Also, baby adjacent products?
You know what? I don't know. But it was in other stuff. But here's the other thing about this. Let's assume some anti-abortion person tried sneaking this in to get it in front of different eyeballs.
Sure.
First of all, what does it say about you when you think this is a convincing argument? Like, let me throw it in here because you won't
It's a
listen
shock
to
and
me
awe
otherwise.
campaign.
Yes, it totally is. What does it also say? Like, you don't have any good arguments. You're just going to try to freak people out. That's your
I'm
argument.
sorry, I cannot get past that it's in a
Also,
diaper box.
it's a diaper. She had the damn
Yeah,
baby.
the baby is there pooping and shit.
Yeah, abortions are not legal through like the 6th trimester. She had it. Put it in the liquor aisle. Like that's the people who need the.
First of all, how dare you?
Why
yeah,
are you giving
that
it
makes
to the woman with the baby?
That is
What's the strategy
wild.
here?
When is it God hates those who shed innocent
Hates
blood?
the hands that shed innocent blood. He hates abortionists. The
I'm
group.
really baffled by literally, Hemant, literally every single part of that is extremely baffling to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they
that's-
don't know who did it.
They don't know who did it yet. I don't know if they have surveillance that can check on that or something, or even if that would help, because whatever, we see someone doing it, what are we going to do? But it just strikes me that this was a tactic they planned out, because it didn't accidentally appear here in 10 other places in the same store. They coordinated this.
Did they say anything about where the other pamphlets turned up? Like were they
not
just
the products. I think they were probably shoved into if
to
you
random
could have-
boxes?
Yeah, and we know the name of the group that did it, but like
What's the name of the group?
some anti-abortion were dumb. That's the name of their group. But like they don't even have a good argument. Their argument is, look at this picture that is
Look
out of
at-
context, and you would whatever.
That's wild.
I don't get the strategy there. It's weird.
Holy cow.
You know,
That's-
just something less
That's
weird.
kind of horrifying.
Kind of is if it
Like,
came
what
out
if
of
your
nowhere.
kid found it and they're
Yeah.
like, "Mom, why is?" I'm sure if your kid's wearing diapers, they're not asking complete questions. How do kids work?
Mommy, what did you do to this child on the back of this pamphlet? It's like, we're not having this conversation now. Put on your diaper, that's you. I don't know. Okay.
Good job, kid. What are you, 9 months old?
So, an Atlanta school, the Atlanta Neighborhood Charter School in Georgia, they have these meetings at the beginning of the day for the entire school, kind of like a pump up, warm up, beginning of the day sort of thing.
Like a pre-shift meeting in a restaurant.
Yes, and then they go off to their classes and homerooms and whatever. And in the past, they always say the pledge and some other stuff at these morning meetings. Earlier this week, the principal of the elementary campus, which I guess they have more than one campus, but the elementary campus president, Laura Zelsky, announced that we're making a change to the beginning of the day routine. Because the Pledge of Allegiance has really gotten so politicized.
I would argue is okay. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
You're going to want to wait for this. Because it's gotten politicized in the sense that more of our students are either sitting down during the pledge or standing up and being silent. It's clear not everyone wants to say it, and they have their reasons for it. We don't want
Pretty good reasons, I bet.
We don't want to put them in the situation where they feel compelled to have to say it or kind of not embarrass themselves, like to stand out.
Yeah.
By not saying it. We don't want to do that to them. So instead of saying it the morning thing, we're going to move it to later in the day, and we're going to make it in the classroom so it's less pressure on everybody. But we're going to eliminate the pledge from the morning meeting, basically. The thing that most people heard are they're getting rid of the pledge. No, they could still say
Not
it. Anyone can
exactly.
say the pledge. But the backlash from conservatives was, as you can imagine, insane. Because they're like, how dare this school take away...
Sounds like they banned the pledge to me.
Yeah. And so this morning, this is like 2 days after that announcement, they announced the governing board chair of this charter school basically announced a revision They're like, look,
Oh, we screwed up again.
it appears,
How did
quoting,
this get in there?
there was some miscommunication and inconsistency in the rollout. Starting next week, we will return to our original format and provide our students with the opportunity to recite the pledge during the all-school morning meeting. So they're right back to it. By the way, in the interim, like, you've heard of Stacey Abrams, the black woman running for governor of Georgia?
Yeah.
Who is amazing. Brian Kemp is the Republican running against her. He posted on Twitter, "There's no question about it. Reciting the Pledge of Allegiance is the right thing to do. At school, students should stand united to honor the flag, our country, and those who have sacrificed for our freedom. Hashtag MAGA."
Yikes.
And some other
Ooh,
stuff.
He super teched that on the end.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, these students are not protesting the country. They're not protesting the flag or whatever. They're protesting injustice. They've said this. Like, they're protesting injustice. They know we don't have liberty and justice for all. Maybe they're protesting the idea that we're one nation under God. I don't know.
Maybe they're protesting that it's really fucking creepy to make children stand up and like creepily drone chant a thing at the flag.
Absolutely. And so, like, the policy, they were doing the right thing. Why did they change it? I love this comment that was on Reddit. A guy said, "If I made my wife stand up and recite our marriage vows every morning, people would think I was fucking psycho." The Army didn't make me swear to support and defend the Constitution every day. I took my oath once, and that was that. Making kids recite the pledge even once is questionable. Making them do it every day is stupid and nonsensical. Yeah.
Also, quick sidebar. I text my aunt, who my mom's family grew up in Rochester.
Yeah.
I asked her why Wegmans is a big deal, and she said they're just amazing stores, beautiful to walk around in, and great great service, fresh, good food. And then she reminded me that my uncle worked there.
Are they paying us to promote their
I
business?
don't know. It's like
this?
a thing. It's just not a... Okay.
By the way, Georgia's House Speaker, David Ralston, who is a Republican, he also said of the pledge in the interim here, "I'm sure our House Education Committee will examine whether taxpayer funds should be used to instill such a divisive ideology in our students."
Wait, which one's the divisive ideology?
Taking away the pledge. He's
But
threatening...
they can still say that. They can say it literally
Yes,
any time.
Of course. They can also pray whenever they want. It doesn't mean you got to say it together.
No. The
The
principal
day.
will arrest them. That's
Clearly.
what I heard.
But he's basically saying, like, we're going to take away your funds, charter school, by not forcing kids to say the pledge every damn day in the morning, because they're going to now dictate when and how kids should say the pledge. So, again, it's another conservative overreaction to a perfectly sensible policy move. It's absurd.
My aunt wanted us to know that Wegmans might be expanding to the south, but it's not definite yet. This is the...
Wegmans, pay us.
Yeah. I've never been to one. My uncle works at one. Did I say that? Uncle Joe. Go say hi
I've
to him.
heard.
He works somewhere. I've got a thing.
What's the thing?
It is... in the same breath, it is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Not true. I'm exaggerating as I want to do. But also feels like this weird justification of a life of paranoia that I've lived.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Okay.
So, Tokyo Medical University has manipulated all entrance exams since 2006. Any guess as to why they did that and to what end?
No.
They did it to restrict the number of female students and ensure more men became doctors.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So smart women who, or at least smart in the sense that they did well on this test.
Were still ousted out. Here's maybe the wildest part. The investigation found that in this year's entrance exams, the schools reduced all applicants' first stage test scores by 20% and then added at least 20 points for male applicants.
What?
Except for those who had previously failed the test at least 4 times.
Oh,
It said similar.
quite the affirmative action going on.
Yeah,
there.
it said similar manipulations have occurred for years because the school wanted fewer female doctors since it anticipated they would shorten or halt their careers after having children. Cool.
I know plenty of women doctors. They're fine even if they have babies. And
Yeah, they're really brave that way. Studies show that the share of female doctors who have passed the national medical exam has plateaued at around 30% for more than 20 years. So that's leading experts to think maybe this is happening in more places than just Tokyo Medical University.
So that means women who should have been in med school basically got told you're not accepted here and had to figure out, oh shit, what else am I going to do now with my life?
Yeah, I guess I'll have kids and never enter the workforce. Good for
Yeah.
me. So the school's managing director is named, and I'm so sorry I'm going to butcher this, Tetsuo Yukiosa.
That was
Nope.
racist.
No, there's no S. Yukioka. I'm so sorry. I did my best. And, I was like skimming through. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to read a Japanese name. I'm going to offend everyone. He said, quote, we sincerely apologize for the serious wrongdoing involving entrance exams that have caused concern and trouble for many people and betrayed the public's trust. He also denied any knowledge of it and said he was never involved. And then he said, and this is my favorite part, because remember, this started in 2006.
Yeah.
I suspect that there is a lack of sensitivity to the rules of modern society in which women should not be treated differently because of their gender. In 2006.
Wow.
Those antiquated times of 2006 before we decided women have rights. He also said...
I wonder how they figured this out.
I
did they
probably
admit
said in
it?
this article, but you gave me about 15 minutes notice before you came over, so
You
I
could
didn't
figure
do
it
a
out.
ton of
You
research.
can figure it out.
He also said that... No, this is a good
I will
one.
drop by surprisingly next week. No warning.
It's fine when you do it at like 11 o'clock at night because I've had a glass of wine and I'm feeling loose. I was in the middle of my workday. He also said, and this is a great quote, women were not treated differently once they were accepted, but... Sorry, this is so
Yes.
dumb. But acknowledged that some people believe women were not allowed to become surgeons. So they were treated the same unless they tried to pursue their chosen career, in which case, less the same and more worse. So anyway, a life of thinking that men were out to get me has finally been justified.
I hope they change it now that they know. Now that it's out there.
I mean, I don't know how they're going to be under public eye unless people
Right.
don't care.
Right.
Which is also extremely likely and once again justifies my extreme paranoia. This is not good for my mental health.
No. And you feel bad for all those people who applied.
Well, imagine how many women's lives got derailed because of this.
Yeah.
And beyond the individual impact, how many great minds were kept out of medicine who could have impacted
Right.
the world.
Right. By blocking out people who were qualified to get in, you're basically, we're missing out on those people who
Yeah.
really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So,
Why are people not religious? Why are people not part of any organized religion?
because we have kind of grown up around it and sort of when scrutinized the evidence, it seems less likely that there was a God and more likely
In
that
4 words or less.
there is no God
That was number 4 on the list.
is the reason that...
Why they don't belong to an organized religion. I don't believe in
Oh.
God. The Pew Research Foundation did a
Okay,
study.
that's 5 words, asshole.
Sorry. Pew Research Center did a study using data from late 2017, basically saying, hey, among the people who don't belong to organized religion, what are the reasons, what reasons are important to you for why you don't belong to an organized religion?
Okay, I'm gonna
Not believing in God, number 4.
I'm curious to hear the first 3 because
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that they keep using the qualifier don't belong to an organized religion.
Right, because there's a lot of unaffiliated
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean
people
they're
who-
atheists necessarily. They could even be quite religious, but they see the problematic stance that the church takes.
Right, so number 3.
Wait, can I guess?
Yes.
Can I?
Yes.
There's 3. I can take
Yep.
3 guesses.
Family Feud this shit. Go.
Good answer. You have to clap after I say every
I
answer.
refuse to.
Something about like the church leadership is corrupt. Maybe greed. And
That might fall into some of this, though it's not
wait,
exactly.
I have one more guess.
Yeah.
You haven't clapped once yet.
Yeah.
And maybe the treatment of women?
Maybe. Yeah, that's part of it.
Yes.
Number 3, I don't like religious organizations.
Okay, I got a little granular, but that's what I meant.
41% of people gave some version of that answer. Number 2, I don't like the positions churches take on social or political issues.
Oh, yeah, I was
which
getting
includes
too
the
deep
women's
into
stuff
things.
and all that. That's 49%. Number one reason that most people gave, I question a lot of religious teachings. I have doubt.
That all tracks.
Makes sense.
And how
now,
many? That was how many percents?
60% said that was an important factor in why they don't participate. Now, what if you ask, what is the most important reason that you don't belong to any church? Among atheists specifically, of course, I don't believe in God. Among agnostics, it's I question a lot of religious teachings. And among the I'm just a nun, but don't call me an atheist sort of thing, it was kind of a tie with I question a lot of religious teachings, and there's no one good reason. Thanks
Can
a
one
lot,
be?
nuns.
I like this.
Yeah. Though you brought up...
Why the vitriol gets nuts?
Okay, other than 11-year-old kids, the people I despise the most are the ones who are like, I don't belong to an organized religion, but I believe in some higher power.
Why?
Of some
What have they ever done to you?
They don't have any good... They're just these, like, I don't believe in, like, the religion stuff, but I don't like to be called an atheist, so don't get mad at me. So I'll believe in something. I just don't want to I don't want to take a stance and get in the middle of shit.
Is that the same way that I can't stand people who say, oh, I believe in women's rights, but I'm not a feminist?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's exactly right. Like, you support the
Fucking
issues,
at
but
both
like,
of us on Twitter.
Yeah.
I want to hear your garbage arguments.
Yeah.
You're a feminist.
I'm voting green because I'm better than both parties.
What happened with the Green
you
Party? I
people.
haven't been on the news the last couple days.
Next
Did they split the
podcast.
vote?
No, they did not ruin the Ohio 12th
Okay.
vote because the gap is wider than the number.
Y'all,
It's a
third
long
party,
story.
we need to talk.
So here's the thing. You mentioned that I don't believe in God. It was number 4, but among atheists, it was number 1. Yeah, the gap between atheists who said this was important, 89% of atheists said, I don't believe in God is the main reason I'm not part of an organized religion, which, first of all, what are the other 11% of you doing? But only 21% of the nebulous unaffiliateds said the same thing.
I would argue that church teachings and not believing in... I feel like saying I question church teachings is a really, like, flimsy way of saying I don't believe in God. Don't you think?
Yeah, or like whatever you're saying God wants me to do or God wants us to believe, like I don't buy that. So I have doubts. Or maybe you say the book of Genesis should be taken literally, and I don't believe that even if I
that's
think
fair.
the Bible is right. And by the way, one other thing to keep in mind, most of this stuff, the people who are not part of a religious group, a lot of the stuff that they said was important to why they don't belong to an organized religion is the failure of the religious people, not something good that atheists did. It's not
for sure.
our
We haven't done
arguments.
anything good.
No, it's most like if you say like I question a lot of religious teachings. That's because they didn't explain this stuff well, or they
Right.
didn't convince you that they should be believed. I don't like the positions of the church. Yeah, because they're bigots in some issues, on some churches, on some issues. Like, that's their fault.
Wait, but
I don't
do you
like
think-
religious organizations. That's clearly their fault. It's not like everyone's saying, well, I read Richard Dawkins' book, and now I'm and now I'm not part of a religion.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, are you being critical of atheists in that regard, that we're not
No.
doing a good recruiting effort, or...
Partly, but like really, it's the fact that why are people not belonging to churches? As much as I would love for atheists to be able to take credit for that, it's really primarily
Oh my
because
God, yeah.
churches give you reason to leave them.
It's super unforced errors on their part.
Yes, it's a lot of self-owns and all of that the entire way through, which also means, by the way, if all the atheist organizations in this country shut down and the new atheists never wrote any more books and bloggers and podcasters disappeared, you would still see a demographic shift away from organized religion.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're doing the mistakes. It's not us that's bringing people over.
Trust me, Hemet and I are doing nothing for
We
our
are
cause.
not helping any of
Anyone
you at
ever.
all. Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is we should be thanking church leaders all the time.
Yeah.
They are doing our work for us.
I mean, I think we've said that for a long time, that like they're choosing to literally die on these hills of anti-women shit and anti-LGBTQ shit and they are.
Those are the hills they're dying on.
Those are the hills they're dying on. And millennials.
And apparently being vegetarian. Who knew?
Well, and I've seen a few things that everybody says you're liberal when you're younger. The older you get, the more conservative you are. And the millennials are sort of bucking that trend in a real way. So I'm wondering if they were depending on the fact that once you get conservative, once you sow your wild oats of caring about society and the environment like assholes,
you'll come back
to us. But I don't think millennials are gonna do that.
Right. I don't see how churches are gonna suddenly win them over.
Yeah.
Not the way they're running now. I could see them maybe saying this pastor, because there are some progressive pastors who do really good work. But I don't know that suddenly those arguments are going to make you want to go to their church and be a member there or anything like that. Maybe you say, maybe I don't have to abandon Christianity because there are some progressive Christian leaders that I think are doing really good things.
Yeah.
And they fall into that nebulous, sure, I believe in something, but don't get mad at me. Nobody. But whatever.
Speaking of millennials, there was an article by the Washington Examiner, and I'm not going to go into it, but the headline almost made me pop a fucking blood vessel in my eyeball.
I think a conservative publication, right?
Is the Washington Examiner conservative? Okay, that political news and commentary from the Washington Examiner. It does not say. Okay. But it's got an eagle as its banner image, so it's conservative, right? The headline is Pigging Out. 49% millennials, should be 49% of millennials, spend more eating out than saving for retirement. Grammatical issues of that particular headline
half of
aside.
Millennials are eating out and not saving for retirement.
Which is wild because they've also blamed millennials for the destruction of shitty food chains like Applebee's and B-Dubs. They said we're not spending enough money and therefore ruining the economy. We've kind of been told in so many words that, I'm not going to retire. Are you fucking kidding me? That's not a privilege.
So they're not making enough to kind of stow money away for the future, but they want to have something in life that's nice. So they go out sometimes.
Or maybe we can talk about how, 401ks aren't as friendly, or what's the thing where they just give you money? They don't have them anymore. Pensions? That wasn't a bit. I couldn't remember the word
thought you were going to
pension.
go with being white, and then you veered into another direction.
Pensions used to be a thing, so that was pretty cool, but we don't get those anymore. And we have shitty jobs because baby boomers won't retire because they wrecked the economy. Can you get off our dicks for one fucking second, baby boomers? Jesus. Sorry, it just made me so we can't do fucking anything right in the eyes of boomers. We can't. We don't spend enough money. We spend too much money. We spend too much on garbage. We don't spend enough on diamonds. We're not saving for retirement. We're not spending enough money. We don't have money.
Yeah.
We're not buying houses.
How dare you go out and eat avocado toast?
Avocado toast is probably really good. I've never had it. It's just avocado on bread. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
I agree. I got one last one for you.
Yeah, we got to bust out of here. You have to leave soon.
Yeah, sure. Remember Jason Rapert? He's the Arkansas state senator who put up the Ten Commandments monument.
Oh, did you say his name right this time?
I did.
Okay.
Someone corrected me in a good way.
Because we gave him a fancy, repair.
It's Target, but it's not. It's Rapert, I believe. So anyway.
And yikes at that name. Go ahead.
But this is the one. He put up a Ten Commandments monument. It got destroyed. He put up another one. He's still raising money somehow, even though it's already up. That's a whole nother issue. But anyway, going back to he's raising money, he has $89,000 in this fundraiser for the monument that's already up. Even though the monument itself was covered by a donation. What's he raising money for?
And didn't you reach out to figure out what it was? Or did somebody reach out?
Somebody reached out and they couldn't get a solid answer from him.
Shocking.
The question itself was a form of persecution.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, if you read his latest update on his GoFundMe page, check this out. Tell me when your eyes bulge.
Okay, I'm going to start them tiny.
All right. The Arkansas Ten Commandments monument is under assault from we're not there. Is under assault from the Satanic Temple, Satanists, the American Atheists, and the ACLU. They're raising money to oppose our efforts to honor the historical and moral foundation of law. We thought that after they destroyed the first monument, that the second monument would be safe. Well, the legal assaults have begun, blah, blah, blah. We thought that after they destroyed the first monument,
Physically,
and by they, he means Satanic Temple, Satanists, American Atheists, and the ACLU.
Sorry, I must
Who
be
destroyed
I must
the
be
first
remembering
monument?
this wrong because it was definitely, if I'm remembering history correctly, it was definitely a Christian.
Yes, it
with
was.
probable mental health
That is
issues
correct.
who destroyed the first one and unapologetically.
And even said he had plans, it seemed, to destroy the second one, though he hasn't done that. But it was a Christian who said
Okay.
God was talking to him.
Isn't it?
And made him do that.
Isn't it absolutely? I feel like this is an incredible.
And by the way, Rapert knows that.
That's what I was about to say.
He
I feel like this
knows
is
the Christian did it.
an incredible sort of microcosm of the religious right's ability to disregard truth when it's in their face.
Yep.
It's not like it's some mystery who destroyed this and maybe it was these parties. Fine.
Very, very
A guy
clear
got
that a Christian
arrested
did
for it and was like, yeah, that was me, dog. Didn't I do good?
And it was the second time he did it because he did it in Oklahoma too. And he said then God was
And
talking to
nobody
me and
gives a
God doesn't want false idols and this is a false idol.
Why doesn't truth matter anymore? This is what's fucking destroying my faith in humanity, is the fact that just like truth doesn't matter. It doesn't hold weight. And I don't know what to bring people to persuade them if it's not truth and facts and I mean, this isn't even like a study shows this. It is a man was like, I did this thing, and they're like, we don't know. Who could it have been? It must have been Satan himself and his cloven hooves.
It's a good conversation to have the next time you eat out at Chili's. Millennials.
First of all,
And by the way,
I love Chili's.
I reached out
rude.
to Rapert, a while back, not long ago, like a few weeks ago, about an unrelated matter to get his comments.
It's like, how
on
dare you ask me
something.
questions?
We had a short, brief Facebook conversation where it was just a back and forth Q&A, and like I got the response that I needed from him. But part of it was saying,
Was one of the questions, why, dog?
but it did come up that I think this was after the Satanic Temple said they were going to protest later this month, I think next week, outside of his Ten Commandments monument. And I wanted his comment on that. And I think, if my memory serves me correct, he was kind of worried that they were going to try to destroy it. But I'm like,
Nah.
but they're not the people who destroyed. They're going to beat you, I think, through the lawsuits they're filing. But that's it. That's what they do. It's the legal stuff. He knew who the guy was who destroyed the first one. It was a lone actor who is a Christian who has said as much. Who, you're right, he
Sounds
may
like
have
a
some
single
mental
bullet
illness.
theory to me, Hammond. Single shooter theory. Fuck, I fucked it
Rapert
up.
knows it's a Christian who did it, and yet he was willing to throw all his cultural
Back
enemies
into the
off the
left.
bus. So
Back into the left.
just totally dishonest, and he knows it.
Did you get any of my JFK references?
I did actually.
You're such a liar. You
I
have
saw,
no idea
I
what I'm
saw
talking
the
about.
movie where they did the.
I've actually never seen it. I just know
back.
back into the left pretty well.
That's all you need to know.
Oh, I saw. You know what I saw last night for the first time is The Exorcist. The movie The Exorcist. It's a horror movie from the 1970s where a young girl gets possessed. You've heard of The Exorcist.
Heard of it.
Don't fucking play this
Have
game
not
with
seen
me. It's pretty good. It's very scary. It's pretty scary. I think it'd be scarier if I were Catholic.
Really?
Yeah. And also, I know why I yell "The power of Christ compels you" so much. It's from that movie.
from that movie,
I mean, I think
yes.
it's a phrase anyway, but they say it for 7 solid minutes. Anyway.
That's all I got.
Cool.
You know how to find us. I'm at Hemet Meta.
I'm at Blueberry Bluebure. Talk to me about Wegmans. My mom also texts back to say how much she loves Wegmans. It's a thing, dude.
Apparently.
She said it's like Mariano's, but better. Is Mariano's a natural?
Mariano's is, I think, a Midwest thing specifically.
Anyway.
So, but apparently not as good as Wegmans.
Apparently not as good. She literally said like Mariano's, but better. So
right.
fucking shots fired,
All right,
Mariano's.
Wegmans, sponsor us. If you like it, go to Patreon. Even if you don't like us, go to Patreon.
Yeah.
If you give us $1, we'll be really mad at you right back. Give us hate money.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so
Yes.
mad at you. Hey, write your name in and I'll yell about you for a while.
You can give us 5 stars and leave a shitty review. I'm fine with that too.
Oh yeah, I usually check reviews before I do this.
don't know.
That's it. I
We'll
don't
see
know.
you next week.
Yeah, we don't have any listener mail or happy things because Hammond has to go take care of his sick human child.
They'll be fine.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.